Hey guys, welcome to the Rat Grind channel. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode 52. Wow, the days have been flying by fast. Today's Tuesday, June 12th, and we want to be able to talk about the markets. The crypto markets continue downward spiral, right? So we're going to look all into that. Just a few reminders, guys. If this is your first time on this channel, please do subscribe, hit the notification bell, as well as smash the likes and give me those thumbs up, please, and comment below. Let me know your feedback. Let me know how this video is providing you the impact that you're looking for, the updates, the content that you are trying to find, and potentially will help you become a better crypto investor and overall rat grinder, right? So please do. I look forward to hearing your feedback. So for today's news, we're going to talk about the overall crypto markets, right? It's lost about close to $20 billion as of the recording of this video. So it's been a hard day for all of us in the crypto space. Bitcoin and Ethereum are threatening to drop to all the way to the 2018 lows that we experienced back in February. So that's not really good. We'll look at the charts after we look at the overall market, right? So there's just three main news that I want to be able to share with you guys. First being that Tron's founder, Justin Sun, it's been confirmed that he went and bought BitTorrent, right? So we're going to look at that news and see how that how that can play out. SesameStreet is moving to help kids learn blockchain. That's another good thing because it sets up the future generations to understand how this space is really at its core, right? So that's really good. And Germany says that cryptos do not threaten financial stability. There's also another news that I was reading about just before I recorded this video, that in UK, the financial regulators have provided a little bit more guidance for banks that deal with cryptocurrencies. So we'll look at that later. We'll talk about that news just a little bit, right? So let's get into the charts, guys. So if you'll notice behind me, everything is pretty much in the red, guys, right? I know yesterday we've recovered quite a bit. It was 50-50, but now everything tanked completely, right? It's a really hard day. I mean, I personally, you see in the markets, in the space, the news, the bloggers, the YouTubers, pretty much all the retail investors that I know, that I see, you see fatigue set in, right? We talked about market psychology yesterday, and I do feel that we are in the depression stage. Like, it's just basically hopelessness almost, where there's nothing. We try to do stuff. We try to see what we can. We read technical analysis. We read news. We look at every single research that we can find, and nothing really points to the market going on this downturn trend. There's really not much going on. Yeah, there was that FUD about that coin rail getting hacked, but that doesn't really make any difference. That is such a small exchange that realistically none of the major cryptocurrencies were really affected. If anything, announcing Ethereum Classic would have been like, wow, there's a lot of strides that are happening in the market, in the space, that would signify us going into more positive direction, more bullish direction, but that is not happening. So let's look at coin market cap, guys. So as you can see, as we stand right now, it's about 11 p.m. or 10:53 p.m. here in Pacific time. We are currently on at $284 billion, right? And yesterday, when we looked at this chart, we were at a little bit over 300 billion. So we pretty much gave up. Close to 20 billion was just lost in the market. Bitcoin's dominance is up to 39.8%. We don't want Bitcoin to dominate too much, because that means that if Bitcoin is dominating too much, it means that the overall market is shrinking, right? And the 24-hour volume in the space is $14.9 billion, right? So if we look at the charts here, I mean, everything is in the red. Everything. I mean, I hadn't seen any single one of these that were in the green. And this is on the top 100. So the 24-hour prices just drop. I mean, I think in the last time this happened was back in February, right? That major dip that we had. Honestly, I'm not sure what to make of this. Is it good news because we are all red, but we haven't hit the 2018 lows in the major currencies, right? But it's also a semblance of like, we really don't know if people are just going to capitulate, right? Just kind of get out of the space. And I think that's what's happening, guys. A lot of the big investors that are going to come into the space, sad to say, I think they have something to do with some of this. They're really trying to get rid of all the weak hands because, as you know, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin specifically, has a very limited quantity. Just keep that in mind, guys. There's only going to be 21 million coins, Bitcoins ever, right? And it will take us close to almost 100 years, maybe not less than that, but 100 years to actually mine 21 million. So there's a lot of people that pass away, that lose their coins, get rid of their hard drives, that there's a big portion of Bitcoin that is not even going to ever be accessible, right? And if you think about that, just put that in perspective, right? If you were in the shoes of the largest financial institutions that want to get in on this space, you want to amass as much of that, because the more of Bitcoin that you can control, the more that you are able to dictate what happens in the markets, right? Because a lot of us, essentially, if you're not a multi-billionaire, then you would still be considered a weak hand because somebody can play you, right? If you look at the charts, if you really look at the psychology of the charts, you can read that. We will get some momentum and then they will sell it down, and people just get tired, guys. I mean, it's like death with a 1,000 slashes, right? And that's exactly what's happening, right? Every time we get some air, we're pushed down. And I think tomorrow's video, I'm going to record something. It depends on what happens in the market, but I have topics ready to be able to share with you guys that I was planning to do today, but I didn't expect the whole market to basically turn red all the way, right? Which it did. So that's why I'm trying to get in on this news instead. But I have a couple of videos that really talk about the space and stuff like that, so that we can be able to take this opportunity, like I've been saying on the last couple of videos, to really educate ourselves and really get familiar and get a better foundation, because a lot of us have shaky foundations. We got into Bitcoin, we heard about it, and we bought in because we thought that this was going to make us millionaires, right? I mean, you have to admit that that's probably one of the reasons why majority of the people came into the space. And if the only reason you came to the space was about the money, then if you're not making money, then what's the point in being in the space? And so that's just something to keep in mind, guys. But like I said, even the coins reserved for tokens, utility tokens, including even the exchange coins, are all down, guys. I mean, this is just, whenever you see it is disheartening. I have to admit that it's really hard to keep seeing these red, but at the same time, for me personally, because I trust in the projects that I've invested in, I'm okay. But at the same time, I'm not in the completely hodl mentality, like hodl forever, hodl until death. That doesn't apply to me. If profits are there, I will take out my profits, because I believe that, as you can see how this market works, right? If you hodl forever, you buy a coin today and you hodl for 1 year, it goes up 50%. Great. But if you sold it at every opportunity before the next dip, you would have been able to potentially make 60-70%, right? So why wouldn't you take those opportunities? And that's exactly my mentality. You guys might disagree with me on that, but that's what I'm doing right now, because I mean, we keep getting burned. We keep saying, let's buy more, let's buy more. When is enough? When is it going to be enough? Why don't I sell it when it's high, like probably whatever everybody else is doing, and then buy in when it's lower? Why not? A lot of you guys don't buy and sell. That you don't. You just keep buying and buying and buying and buying and buying. But realistically, the most successful YouTubers that you see, like Tony Vase, for example, he trades, right? He's a Bitcoin maximalist, but he trades. He buys and sells them, and there's a lot of them that do that as well. I think, there's a lot of people in this space that are reviewing these ICOs, buying all of this. That's all great, but eventually you're gonna run out of capital. And when you run out of capital, there's no amount of ICO reviews that's going to help you recuperate your money that you've lost. It really isn't. So you have to be able to be wise with your money. Treat this as a business. Really treat it as a business, because if it was your business, if you had oversold, for example, you had a business, you sold car parts. And one thing about your car parts was that particular model of car is going to be discontinued. Are you really going to hold on to those parts? Or why don't you just get rid of them so you can invest it in something, a new project or anything like that, so that you can continue making those steady gains instead of hoping and praying that a year from now this asset will remain, right? So just keep that in mind, guys. Just please keep that in mind. So let's get right onto the charts, guys. So let's look at Bitcoin real quick, right? If we look at Bitcoin, I've drawn out every single different pattern that I can think of. I've tried out looking at triple bottoms. I've looked like this. I've looked at this this wedge pattern. I've tried like a descending triangle. All these things, and it keeps changing. Realistically, TA can only get you so far. One thing for sure is it's on a downturn, looking at it on a day chart, right? But I drew some of these support lines right here. So I'm seeing some support on this particular first green line right here. And if we fall through that line, this is the next level of support that I can see, right? So this is about the 5,900. But when you look at a lot of technical analysis that's out there, a lot of the people that are shorting the market are looking for it to drop to about 55K. So just keep that in mind. You really need to get some confirmations. If you're not comfortable in your technical analysis and stuff like that, don't just go with what everybody else says, right? Because everybody is saying something different, because they're all coming at it from a different point of view. Some of them are targeting low because they're shorting the market. And that's understandable. That's what they do. So just keep that in mind. Today we lost again, right? If you look at this is the drop that we experienced today. Although it closed on that red candle, right now we're currently on a green candle, right? That was green yesterday as well when we were looking at these charts, but that didn't continue to happen, and it dropped. So that is something just to you guys really need to keep in mind. Really look into. So let's look at something on, let's look at the MACD. So if you can see the MACD on the 1 day, this is a bearish crossover. It did a crossover, a bullish crossover here. That did not last, and it tanked, and it went back down today, right? So if you're looking at this, that signifies to me there is more bearish momentum in this particular space, in this particular coin, than anything. I don't see any confirmation that this is going to go up. But again, there's a lot of irrational things that happen in this space that just happens just because. But if you just look at the sound technical analysis, I'm not an expert technical analysis. I only know the basics, right? But when I see this, it shows that it could potentially still go down. That's what I see. When we look at the RSI, it is oversold, but as you can see, it's lower than it has been. It's even lower than this time right here. Look at that. If you can see that line, it's going down, right? So it could potentially go down even more. I'm not saying it will, but it can. And that's something that we need to watch out for. If it doesn't pick up tomorrow or Thursday, then potentially over the weekend, then we're gonna drop even more, right? So it's something that we just need to keep in mind, guys. So if you are here and you are in the space, trust that Bitcoin will sustain. It will sustain itself, right? We just don't know how low this is gonna go. The lower it goes, the longer potentially that we would be able to get to the highs. If you bought in at 20,000, I'm not sure if that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, even the next couple of months, or even this year, right? There's a lot of people that are saying, it's going to go up to 25K, 30K, 35K, 50K. McAfee, $1 million. No one knows. No one knows, right? Unless you have, you're the richest man in the world, like Bill Gates, Carlos Slim, and maybe Warren Buffett all get into the space and put all their assets into it and manipulate it to death. Then maybe they can manipulate it to go up. But other than that, we have to be smart, guys. We have to really be smart and protect ourselves, protect our money, right? So let's look at Ethereum, guys. We were looking at there at the 1-day chart like we always do. I just drew a fib retracement there. So right now, as you can see, I have 3 lines here. This is where we're at right now. This is where it's bouncing currently. This is about the 492 level, right? Down to 495. That's where we were able to bounce and found some support there today. But as you can see, it opened below that candle. Let me close all the other indicators, right? This is like a spinning top. There's confusion in the market. The bears and the bulls are fighting for share. We don't know who's going to win right now. But, I drew out this channel. I'm trying to see any particular pattern that I can find to signify that it's going to go up, but everything points currently to it going down more. Maybe not so much. I think the next target would probably be around 450. That's where it can go low. But if not, guys, we're still far from the lowest it has been this year. But then again, I'm not seeing any signs here that it's going to go up, because if you can see here, it did not. This small bearish momentum here did not really form higher highs. If this went all the way up to even just a little bit here, right, and it went down again, that should be okay, because it means that at least it formed a higher high than this one. But that did not happen. So there's a lot of bearish momentum. There's the bears are fully in control right now. Let's look at the MACD. So for the MACD as well, if you compare it to Bitcoin, it's the same thing. You still have this bearish crossover that has happened here, and it's widening, as you can see. If it's really tight, if the space is really tight, then potentially that could be a signal to show us that, maybe it's going to point back up, right? But currently, I don't see that happening in the next day or two, right? So we're going to have to keep watching this market. Again, the RSI is also oversold. As you can see, I already put my alerts here because I'm going to be watching this like a hawk, right? I'm going to watch this to see what happens, because I want to be able to see if it goes up. I want to be able to find some buying opportunities, right? If you're layering down, the dollar cost averaging down, that's potentially a strategy that you could be able to do. All right, that's pretty much it. There's really, if we just look at the whole market space, that's pretty much all that I can think of that we can look forward to, right? Data Dash did an awesome analysis today as well. If you look at Coin Mastery also, they did a really good Carter Thomas did a really good session today on Bitcoin. He always looks at the 4-hour chart. So I watch his. I look at all these people to try to see bounce off some of my theories, right? I read the news, I see where the analysts, I look at the chart guys, there's so many charters, technical analysts on YouTube that I watch. I want to see where they all are going, and I also look at potentially what the other people in the space that normally says a lot of bad things about the market or says the good things about the market, and see where they stand, so that I can kind of put together those fundamental psychological analysis together with some technical analysis, and you combine those things together, you can get more of a sentiment of where it is actually headed. Again, we're working with probabilities here, right? This is not an exact science that will say if it hits this level, then it's going to go up. We do know that when the MACD is going down, the prices are going down. If the RSI is going up, then the prices are going up. That's something for sure. But how far it's going to go, none of us know that. So we just have to keep our eyes open and keep our ears and brains open to be able to absorb a lot of these information so that we can make the best decisions for ourselves, right? So let's jump into a little bit of the news, guys. There's not a lot of news that happened today. I know there's a lot more, but there's really no point in sharing with you guys some of the news that transpired, because it's just more of the same, right? So one of the big news today was BitTorrent, like I told you guys, confirmed that they were sold to Justin Sun, who's the founder of Tron, right? So basically, BitTorrent is a troubled company. There was a time where they were going to build an media entertainment company layered on top of their P2P network. That didn't work out. So Justin Sun, him, founding Tron, I still don't see the correlation with how BitTorrent is going to help Tron. I mean, maybe news is news, guys, but I still don't see how it's all going to play out. So I'm curious to see how other people are going to be reporting this particular news and saying what they think. But me personally, I think this is just a completely separate play than Tron. Although BitTorrent does have a network, maybe they will use those to widen Tron's reach, because the Tron's ethos is what Justin Sun is saying. He wants to decentralize the internet, right? Maybe he will be able to figure out a way, but we don't know where Tron is right now. We don't really know. It's not a viable product right now as of yet, so we don't know how they can be able to use the BitTorrent network to actually make anything, right? So that's one thing why I'm very, very bullish on Cardano, right? The reason I'm bullish on Cardano, although right now it's sitting at, 16, 17 cents or maybe less, is because they chose to not have a placeholder asset. Think about it. EOS raised $4 billion, right? $4 billion. That's a ton of money, guys. Not even Facebook raised $4 billion, and they already had over 1 million users. Think about that. Just put that in perspective, guys. And EOS did, and they did not even have their blockchain yet. And they had to use Ethereum as a placeholder asset, as a placeholder token. And Cardano, on the other hand, they came up with their own. You buy Cardano, they had their own wallet. You put your Cardanos into the Daedalus wallet, and that says to me that this team believes in that project. Although there's a lot of decentralization talks and all that stuff, that's all great. I understand that, but that's one thing that shows me personally that there's a lot more value to that, because they actually put blood, sweat, and tears into building a viable product, a viable base that people can be able to build on. Although Cardano's timeline is a little bit longer than most, but at least I know that they've built something. A lot of these ICOs, a lot of these coins are just all talk. They're all just paper. They're just all ideas, but nothing is, there's no fruits yet. So, I'm curious to see how Tron actually uses the BitTorrent network, and we'll see how that all plays out. The next bit of news is this. I love Sesame Street. I'm sure you guys do too. I'm sure you guys watch Sesame Street growing up, right? So they're making a move to help kids learn about blockchain. So of course, we all know that Sesame Street is all about education, right? So they've already partnered with a company called Kano. I believe it's Kano, where they're trying to teach kids coding. I'm teaching my kids coding because I think that logic, being able to think, test A, B, C theories is quite important in enabling our kids to be able to be better problem solvers, right? So programming, coding really enables you to be able to do that. That's something that I think if you have kids, I strongly recommend. I'm not telling you guys what to do, but I strongly recommend you looking at it. You know, there's games like Code Combat. You know, like I have a 10-year-old that's currently learning. Well, actually, he's 11. I'm sorry about that. He when he was 10, I got him to go through this program called Code Combat. It basically teaches kids to code Python, and it's a game. So you basically move these characters, fight these little characters, these enemies and villains and stuff like that on this isometric game, looking like like Diablo type of game, but more kiddie. And you write these codes to execute commands to really fight, stop, not kill the non-playable character, but just kill the enemy and stuff like that. So it taught him logic. And right now, I mean, my son is 11 years old, and he's going through Ivan's course, his blockchain programming course. Although he probably will not be able to apply it, but he's going through that. So what SesameStreet is doing by them partnering with it, with Kano, they're taking the next logical step of coding and moving that into blockchain. So that's really, really good, because it will help our kids realize the technology behind this. So by the time they get into the fold, blockchain is just like the back of their hands. You and I grew up without cell phones, right? There was cell phones, but there was like briefcase, and you had to be holding them. Saved by the Bell time when you had that little big cellular phone and stuff like that. That's what we saw. Now my kids just can do things on the phone that I could not do at their age. So it's good that we'll be able to introduce kids to the blockchain space, right? So the next bit of news that I want to talk to you guys about is UK financial regulator advises banks on how to manage risk of crypto assets, right? Let me just read you guys a quote here. Following a risk-based approach does not mean banks should approach all clients operating in these activities in the same way. Instead, we expect banks to recognize that the risk associated with different business relationships in a single broad category can vary, and to manage those risks appropriately, right? This is the actual letter that they sent. This is from the Financial Conduct Authority that they sent to bank CEOs. They said that as evidence emerged of scope of crypto assets should be used for criminal purposes, I am writing regarding good practices for how banks handle the financial crime risk posed by these products. But key here, the second paragraph says, there are many non-criminal motives for using cryptocurrencies that include using them as high-risk speculative investments, you agree, or as a means of funding innovative technological development, ICOs. That's what they're talking about, right? However, this class of product can also be abused because it offers potential anonymity and the ability to move money between countries, right? So you need to take reasonable precautions, right? So that's all that I'm going to read for you guys on that particular letter. But overall, they're basically giving a lot more guidance, right? That's really key here. They're not going on a heavy-handed saying like, don't accept cryptocurrencies, don't do business with people that deal with cryptocurrencies like India did. I mean, India admitted, I was reading today, that they admitted that they banned ICOs and all this stuff without really researching much. They just said, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to cut it out. And that's exactly what they did. But majority of the forward-thinking countries are not doing that. And that's, I think, great for our space, because people and institutions are recognizing the technology behind this overall space. Although there's a lot of scams, there's a lot of projects that are probably not going to go anywhere. But the underlying technology, the underlying sentiment is there, that bigger corporations that know value, they can see those values within these particular projects. So the last bit of news that I want to be able to talk to you guys comes straight from Germany. So Germany says cryptocurrencies does not threaten financial stability, right? They said, this was according to the federal government, the volume of crypto asset transactions is low compared to the size of the global financial system to pose a serious threat to the current financial system, right? I think that is something that they're saying now because of the fact that we know liquidity is really bad in the market currently. But as more and more people get into the space, as you know, I just hope that this current depression state don't kick all of us out, right? It's kicking us in the butt, but I hope it doesn't kick us out. But eventually, when this goes mainstream, once we figure out how to get this mainstream, then potentially it could then be a global risk. But I think right now they see it as a side project, right? Because they don't really see much happening from it, because there's a lot of infighting within the space. We can't even get along in the space. You have these maximalists that says all other altcoins or all other coins other than Bitcoin is shit. That's their opinion, right? And you have these people that saying like, oh, Bitcoin is not ever gonna scale because it's not really a good medium of exchange. It's slow, as well as it's volatile. You know, so there's reasons. So I'm not saying one or the other is correct, but I'm just saying that currently we're still trying to figure stuff out ourselves within the space for the other outside people that don't really understand this market very well to see it as a threat yet. So I think, you know, it is a threat to financial systems, but the global economy is not yet threatened by the existence of cryptocurrencies, right? So that's pretty much it, guys. That's all the news that I want to be able to share with you guys. We're a little bit over 30 minutes, so I want to cut the video short. I respect your time. I don't want to go any further. And we'll keep looking at the news. We'll keep looking at what happens to the charts, what happens to the price, and we'll report tomorrow what transpires. If there's anything that I missed on what I see some of the news that I shared with you guys, and also some of the analysis that I did looking at the markets, please do share your thoughts with me on the comments below, so that I can be able to take your ideas and learn from them as well. This is a community. This is a two-way communication that, you know, I'm sharing with you guys what I'm thinking, but please educate me, school me if you can, if you must. Please do. I welcome that, because I want to be able to learn from you guys. Some of you guys have been here a lot longer than me. So I want to be able to hear from you, your perspective, or you might not be here longer than me, but you have a different perspective. You may be newer in the space, but you have a different perspective that I never even considered, right? Because all of us have a different perspective in life. We bring something new to the space, and that value, please do share that with me as well. I would really, really appreciate it. All right. Well, until I see you guys on the next video, I really appreciate your time. And I'll see you tomorrow. Right. So thank you so much for your time today. I wish you and your family a success-filled day. Good night, guys. Love you. Bye.